What makes a game so widely adored as Hollow Knight? Isn't it just another 2D platformer that's hard for no reason other than to torture completionists? Well, in my opinion, there's no better way to judge a game's heart than by gathering all of its achievements. Every word here was written after a real session, capturing the victories, the stumbles, and the lessons learned along the way. For the veterans of Hollow Nest, I hope you see traces of your own first footsteps in mine. For newcomers, may my mistakes spare you a few of your own. At the beginning, I knew nothing of nail, nothing of soul, only pain. I am the devotee, and this is Hollow Knight. Before taking my first steps into Hollow Nest, my friend and resident Night Scholar Hollowed made a presentation breaking down the achievements I would be after. Most of this presentation was just pure info dump, but a few points did stick, and there were a couple of meme slides I'll never unsee. The game opened with a cryptic quote. Deep, probably, though it went right over my head. Then, I saw me, a cold, emotionless beetle, walking down a quiet street. I paused, overlooking the city, and then jumped into the unknown. How hard could the first enemy possibly be? Hard enough to hit me twice before I could even react, though my controller stuttering might have had something to do with that. What does one do when you're bleeding out and panicking? You learn to focus soul. The first and most important lesson in this world. And when I reached my first platforming section, I wondered how bad could falling really be. Turns out, gravity here does not forgive mistakes. For a place called the Forgotten Crossroads, it was surprisingly full of life and disappointment. I tore through everything in sight, searching for loot, and found none. In one room, I encountered a sobbing caterpillar patriarch. Oh, sorry man, I'll leave. Deeper in, the faint sound of humming led me to a cartographer who sold me a map for only 30 geo. It wasn't the most accurate thing, but maybe there's a way to make it more usable? Someone's been trapping these caterpillars, but why? At the end of a long tunnel, I found one sealed in a glass jar. What kind of monster could do this? Be free, little one. After wandering a little too far, I got locked in a room with a flying creature that spits orange goo. One was manageable, but then two appeared. I froze up. I died faster than Uncle Ben in a Spider-Man reboot.
I missed the part where that's my problem.
Death in this game comes with a twist, losing all your geo until you reclaim your shade. Soon after, I stumbled into a shop, empty-handed but happy to browse. Later, I checked in on the Caterpillar Patriarch again, and he rewarded me with a small handful of geo. This isn't much, but it's something. If I kept rescuing his children, I'd eventually have a tidy fortune waiting here. Judging by the number of empty nest slots, he had a lot of children. Jackpot. I returned to where I'd fallen and found my own shade waiting, silently, hollow, and angry. One strike, and my geo was mine again. It finally clicked. This was Hollow Knight's answer to Dark Souls. I learned that striking enemies could fill my soul, but what was soul really capable of? I remembered that soul could be used to heal, and soon after I found another bench beside a toll machine marked with the symbol of a stag. I paid the 50 geo, rang the bell, and the gate opened. A majestic stag appeared. Friendly, rideable, my new best friend. This is fast travel done right, and it fits the world perfectly. After my new friend dropped me off, I entered a suspiciously large room. Strange, no boss music, no build-up. Could this game actually resist the urge? Ah, that makes sense. I died quickly, mostly from trying to heal while a giant shockwave rolled toward me. Like the stubborn fool I am, I went back in. I noticed that just before his wave attack, he'd always step back to prepare, but I still couldn't manage to jump high enough to clear it. After enough hits, his helmet tips to the side, revealing his face. I could strike him here, or take the chance to heal. Then came his tantrum with debris raining from the ceiling. After a few of those fits, the floor gave way beneath us. I followed him down and finished the fight, bracing for a second phase. I suppose that was just a falsehood. I took the loot and moved on. I found another bench with this shaman guy standing nearby. He gifted me a spell so powerful that it knocked me out cold. With a single tap, I could now blast enemies in front of me. Could magic really make my life easier down here? When I came to, he sent me on an errand to slay a great beast. I suppose nothing's truly free. The creature was impervious while it was blocking, and I wasted 2 blasts learning that. At least it coughed up smaller creatures that I could farm for soul. 4 blasts later, it was gone, and I felt the thrill of being charmed as I claimed my first charm. Apparently, you have to sit down at a bench to equip it though. I freed a few more caterpillars and stumbled upon the Temple of the Black Egg. I thought this was a spider egg and I vowed to never return. Soon after, I found a Snorlax-like bug blocking the path. I woke him up and he definitely moved willingly. This little nudge opened the way to a new area, Green Path. The moment I arrived, I recognized the music. It's been in every YouTube video since 2017. But in this lush paradise, even the bushes want me dead. Eventually, I came face to face with something that looked a lot like me. Mommy? And then she was gone. I hope I find her again. This entire section radiates exploration, wonder, and discovery. Every step making me ask, where am I going now? Who am I going to meet next? And the soundtrack really just ties it all together, fueling that constant curiosity. Even if you're not achievement hunting this game, this part alone is worth experiencing, and you should go get the game right now and lose yourself in the world. After more jungle wandering, I found Cornifer again. He's my favorite sound in these wilds. I bought his map and began filling in the blank spots, chasing that sweet complete layout. I breached a new chamber, bracing for whatever horror waits inside. It shrieked, and eyes opened from the shadows of a dank little hole. Instead of attacking, it offered me a journal. Every time I killed something new, its info appeared inside, marked with a small hunter symbol. Sweet. I found another creature who looks a lot like me. Naturally, my hero complex kicks in, and I leapt into action to save him from this giant mosquito thing. He didn't seem too happy about it though. In fact, he insulted me and declared himself Zote the Mighty. Yeah, more like Zote the Mouthy. I ran into the red-clad knight again. She warned me, come no closer, and called me a stalker. To defend my honor and avoid being cancelled, she had to die. Of course, that meant dying a few times myself first. The key here was dodging everything and healing whenever I could steal a breath, either while she whipped that golden lasso around, or when she paused after taking too many hits. Most bosses in Hollow Nest telegraph their attacks with little animations if you're paying close enough attention. Now, I wasn't exactly worried about losing my Geo, but I did return to Dirtmouth to spend what I could before diving back into the fight. I bought another mask shard, not quite an upgrade yet, but it brought me closer to whatever a mask actually does. Refreshed from the break, I headed back into the fight. Whenever Hornet would throw her weapon, it would linger for just a moment before returning to her. This is the perfect window to land a hit or two. When she paused to catch her breath, I could actually squeeze in a couple heals myself. And just like that, this test of resolve was over. She left behind the Mothwing cloak. Finally, a dash button! I'll admit, I was proud of myself for beating a boss that so many players apparently struggle with early on. I finally met Quirrell at the Lake of Un. We talked for a bit. Nice guy, oddly calm for someone living in bug purgatory. But the achievement grind waits for no one. I came across a parkour section that demanded precision. Since I'm more used to moving with my left hand, I rebound my keys to WASD for movement, space for jump, and left click for attack, as RNGesus intended. I pushed through and earned the Thorns of Agony charm. I thought it would let me ignore thorn damage, but nah, this works more like the Thorns enchantment in Minecraft. Not as good as I'd hoped, but still one more charm checked off the list. Before I could celebrate this new charm, nature itself began speaking to me. Is that Vietnamese? I suppose this was a mini-boss, since it hit harder than your average bug. The couple hundred Geo was nice, but it's a real shame he doesn't respawn. How hard is it to pogo? Turns out, really hard. I'm worse at this than landing jokes. They wouldn't die, but with good timing, I could ride these water walkers across the acid. And at the end of the corridor, I found another caterpillar in a jar, and a wall that I couldn't climb over. I'm convinced that the developers were laughing when they placed it there. I got nothing for my troubles except for practice. I'll be back. Eventually, I stumbled into a dreamy area filled with soft pink bubbles and jellyfish. I thought this was a bug burrow. This felt more like a fever dream. I killed one of the larger jellyfish, and he did not like that. The aquatic dream ended as I entered a place that smelled of sulfur. the fungal wastes. There, a bloated creature tried breathing poison at me, but when he died, it deflated and spun out like a balloon. Later, I met a jittery fellow selling fragile charms. I bought Fragile Greed because nothing says financial responsibility like a high-risk investment. And just as I was losing my bearings again, that familiar humming returned. "Cornifer, map me up, playa!" I came across a floor that looked ready to collapse. I couldn't quite break it yet, but something told me I would be back. I found Hornet again. She ran to the right, so I went left. I chose to fight the praying mantises instead. This was gonna be easy. Never mind, my fragile charm shattered instantly. It cost Geo to repair, and I wasn't quite in the mood. I found and yoinked a mantis claw from their stash, letting me cling to the walls and leap off of them like a ninja. The lower halls were brutal, but I recovered my soul and bought a simple key and map pins. With a new key in hand, I headed right from Dirtmouth to try it out, and I met Confessor Gigi. It seems you can pay them to recover your soul from wherever you died last. Then I went left, retracing the starting area. Somehow I'd missed half of it. I picked up another charm, uncovered a few secrets, and eventually reached the Howling Cliffs, only to immediately fall back into King's Pass. Out here, I found Cornifer again, naturally, bought his map. I found another mask shard, the final piece of my first mask. My life was a little more protected now. I also stumbled into a shack housing a giggling buffoon. Every time she spoke, she smacked her lips like she'd just eaten invisible peanut butter. She had plenty of charms for sale, but I was too broke for anything major. Still, I managed to snag a charm notch and the steady body charm. I found a cavern glittering with crystals, and met a miner humming to herself. She invited me to mine and make some geo with her, but I didn't have the means to dig deeper, so I turned back. Ugh, more parkour. I'm terrible at platforming. At the end of this acid gauntlet stood a massive knight statue with a socket in its chest. Intimidating. When the game prompted me to insert the city crest, I hit no. I was not ready. But after pushing as far as I could beyond it, I came back, hesitantly inserted the crest, and then stepped into the City of Tears. Another cutscene. It's Hornet again. This time she wasn't after my blood. She just wanted to talk. Something about why I'm even here. I then met the nailsmith. For a measly 250 geo, he strengthened my nail. Hell yeah. That's a steal. He mentioned that with a piece of pale ore, he could make it even stronger. Great! Another thing to track down in this endless maze. After weaving my way through a cathedral, I entered another ominously large room with no music. Totally safe, just like last time. This was the Soul Master. My first attempt went surprisingly well. Mostly just learning his attacks until he caught me with that fake-out ground pound. Tactical retreat. Hey, that's Cornifer. Take my money. On my next attempt, I learned the Soul Master's slow left-to-right sweep could be dodged by wall jumping on the right side. During his fireball sweep, though, I discovered I could squeeze in 2 hits while hopping over the flames. I finally defeated him! Or so I thought. He faked me out again and came back faster, angrier, and somehow louder. His second phase fireballs gave me no time to heal, so on my second attempt, I used my soul to blast him instead. Illumination left his body, and in its place, the ability pickup reappeared. Desolate Dive. Now I can smash through weak floors. In search of weak floors to smash, I met a relic seeker named Lem and sold off what I had, walking away with 2,814 geo in my pockets. With my newfound fortune, I used a key to open the sewers, peeked inside, and immediately decided I was not losing my geo to the Ninja Turtles. I'm not going to repeat the basics, but at this Stagway station, I continued to build a connection across the underground. Afterward, I raided Iselda's inventory, bought out all of her markers, grabbed my first vessel fragment and another charm notch, and picked up new charms, Lifeblood Heart and Long Nail. I equipped Long Nail immediately. It turns out, size might matter after all. I met Millibelle the banker. A professional down here? How rare. For only 100 geo, she opened an account for me. I rarely lose my geo since it's easy enough to chase down my ghost, but it's nice to have a little insurance. I didn't have much to deposit yet, but Hollow told me she even pays interest. She might be my new favorite NPC. Back in the fungal wastes, I found the Spore Shroom charm right after dying in the parkour section to reach it. Typical. Soon after, I discovered the Mantis Lords and challenged them immediately. On my first attempt, the Lone Lord always threw low, a detail that would haunt me later. I made it to stage 2, where there were now 2 of them instead of 1. I died shortly after. Still, this was one of the most fun fights yet. yet. On my second attempt, he only threw his attacks high, and I kept jumping into them like it was my day job. Eventually, I realized the height of his perch determined the arc of his throw. From there, everything clicked. I didn't take a single hit against the first Mantis Lord, and made quick work of the other two, taking only 4 damage. I had earned their respect. Beyond them lay the deep nest. First, centipedes. Gross, but manageable. Then, spiders. Unsettling, but I've handled spiders before. I found Cornifer, clearly shaken, offering me a map at a discount. Sure, man, just get out of here. Huh. An enemy from the crossroads down here? Interesting. Oh god, its corpse just reanimated with spider legs. Ew, they move so creepily. I hate it here. Oh, they're on the screen too. Get them off! I can't handle this place. I need a napalm strike, an orbital laser, and the unadulterated wrath of God. Bracing for a nightmare-inducing spider boss, I found Zote, stuck in a web. He was not pleased that I'd rescued him again. Thank God I'm finally out of that spider hellhole. The floor collapsed beneath me. I was back in the spider hellhole. Words can't describe how angry I was. To escape my personal hell, only to fall right back in. Poetic, really. I paid another visit to Caterpillar Dad. He showered me with money like I was working the pole, and even gave me a mass fragment. Thanks, Poppy. I stopped by Zelda again and bought some tram pins, and headed back to the Howling Cliffs. I was convinced that there was more to uncover. That's where I found Nailmaster Mato, who taught me the nail art of Cyclone Slash. I was satisfied with how much I'd explored. The map was finally starting to take shape. I equipped Gathering Swarm, a charm that collects loose geo for me. It was nice not having to scramble for loose change. After some saving, I finally bought the Lumafly lantern, which let me explore dark places without instantly dying. With light in hand, I returned to Crystal Peak and smashed my way inside using Desolate Dive. There I found Cornifer humming as usual. This place was so Crystal Peak. I even beat the Crystal Guardian on my first try. His attacks were so telegraphed, even I could read them. Eventually, I came across a large bug with a purple light pulsing like a heartbeat. Convinced it was a boss, I approached it cautiously, ready to die. Instead, I absorbed the crystal heart. To use it, I just hold none. I guess I need to rebind that real quick. While grounded or clinging to a wall, I can charge it up and launch forward like a bullet until I hit something. The possibilities this opens are endless. Hollow Knight really is a masterclass in giving you new mechanics to play with and new areas to uncover. I fell into a dark chamber beneath Crystal Peak and found 3 statues, each wearing a mask. When I reached out, the locations of the dreamers appeared on my map. Then, without warning, the world around me dissolved. I was pulled into a dream. A quiet void, where a glowing butterfly led me to my next gift, the Dream Nail. I woke to a crazed old bug watching over me. She asked me to bring her essence. I'd been ignoring those strange plants scattered across Hollow Nest, assuming that they were just set dressing. Turns out they were brimming with essence all along. After harvesting one, I continued on, passing through a hollow sarcophagus that felt less like a tomb and more like something designed to keep something evil within. I found myself in a dank, miserable hole, swarming with zombie-like bugs, clawing for a bite of me. Breakable walls lined the tunnels. It felt like every corner hid a secret just waiting to be smashed open. Deep inside, I discovered the Soul Eater charm. I bolted back to Dirtmouth and blew my geo on the Resting Grounds map, and some pins. I rediscovered a parkour section that was only possible with my new ability, and at the end, I found another Nailmaster. This one had traded his weapon for the humble paintbrush. He taught me the Great Slash. Hold the attack, charge it up, unleash big damage. Armed with this new technique, I returned to Deep Nest. Still, as jumpy as ever, I got my ass handed to me by stalking devouts. Pfft, more like stalking the devout. Wait, that's me. I guess they're just doing their job. The longer I stayed, the more Deep Nest felt like my final resting place. False floors, hiding spikes, twisting tunnels, and spiders everywhere. Dude, I feel like this is my Vietnam. I'm sweeping through the tunnels, getting fucking spite trapped, and clearing out the Viet Cong, or in this case, spiders. My game sense crumbled under the creeping legs. But when I spotted one of the mask icons on my map, I steeled myself and pushed forward towards victory. I reached the distant village where the buildings were actually giant spider eggs. That's unsettling, but I went inside anyway. Huge mistake, the place was filled with corpses. Totally fine, normal Tuesday. Convinced the largest egg was hiding a boss fight, I crept inside, only to find a party? Every attendee cheerfully insisted I sit and rest. How inviting. Well, I am pretty tired. Oh. Oh no. I can't get up. Guys, little help? I love the warping music. That's perfect. Bro is such a dick. I woke up, wrapped neatly in webs, like a Christmas present that nobody asked for. I sliced myself free with my trusty nail, dreading the spider boss I knew was coming. On a stone plinth lay a sleeping creature. After bumbling around, chat reminded me of my dream nail, so I woke her. I kept poking, hoping she'd say more. She didn't. Fine, time to take out all my deep nest rage on her. She went supernova. I focused. Her mask cracked. The beast was slain. One mask is gone from the Black Egg Temple. Fully expecting an unavoidable escape fight, I stepped outside and... nothing. No giant spider boss. All that tension for nothing? In the sewers, beneath the City of Tears, I stumbled across Fluke Marm, and my joy died instantly. She wouldn't stop vomiting out tiny, hyperactive nightmares. Worse, her blood was the same color as the minion spawn indicator, so I'd confidently smack the oversized worm, only to get smacked right back by one of his newborns. Eventually, I put him down and received the Fluke Nest charm. I heard a faint, joyful laugh echoing through the tunnels. Naturally, I followed it and found the greatest knight of them all. Dung Defender! Finally, a knight of my caliber! Our battle was fierce, chaotic, and oddly wholesome. And on my first attempt, I bested him. 'Twas an honor, sir. I emerged from the sewers into the city and found another stagway station, and beneath it, a rusted, forgotten one. I dove into the water below and surfaced in a bleak, desolate land called Kingdom's Edge. There, I met the final nail master, who offered to teach me his last technique, for a price. Greed is good, I suppose. But before I could get too comfortable, I lost myself among the endless cliffs, chasing Cornifer's hum in vain. Instead, I stumbled into the Colosseum of Fools. One look was enough to know this was not the time for that fight. Back in the city, I found a room swarming with enemies. There's gotta be something good back here, I thought. I died, respawned outside the Nailmaster's hut in Kingdom's Edge, made the entire miserable trek again, died again. Still no bench. Finally, Cornifer. It was all worth it. Praise RNGesus. It turns out I'd already explored most of Kingdom's Edge. Back in that cursed room, I finally overcame the Horde and found a vessel fragment, completing my first soul vessel. You could say I'm soulful now, with enough extra soul for a bonus heal. Because let's be honest, we both know I'll need them. With a healthy pile of Geo in my pockets, I paid Salubra a visit to lighten the load. About a charm notch and quick focus. Now I could heal just a little faster. I was feeling quite enchanted, though that might have just been the sound of her constant lip smacking. During a short exploration break, I swung by Caterpillar Dad again. He handed me the Grubslung charm and a generous stack of Geo. Back in the resting grounds, I challenged a warrior dream. Fun little fight. I only died once. The trick here was watching for his nail boomeranging back to him. Defeating him earned me 100 essence, which I traded to the seer for a Hollowness seal. While wandering, I found the shopkeeper's key and brought it to Sly. He unlocked even more stock, so I picked up the elegant key and the heavy blow charm. Somewhere in the ancient basin, I also scored my first pale ore. I figured I'd need about 1,000 Geo for the nailsmith to forge it, so I held off, at least until my sugar daddy sent another check. I stumbled upon the broken vessel, who looked suspiciously like me. As usual, I died first, just trying to learn his patterns. On my second attempt, he was granted release. His defeat earned me the Monarch Wings, granting the sweet gift of double jump. As I passed his still body, I noticed dream markers nearby and struck him with the dream nail. He returned, faster, deadlier. So, I decided to hold off for now. Cornifer had long since bailed on the basin, so I bought the map from his wife back in their shop. Next on the hit list was the mask hidden somewhere in the City of Tears. After getting lost repeatedly, I found my way into a massive chamber lined with 6 lifeless figures. Yeah, I'm definitely waking those up and dying, so let's go find a bench first. Oh god, 2 enemies at once. I bailed, sold my relics, and suddenly I was sitting on 5,375 Geo. It's time to go shopping. I upgraded my nail, picked up 2 mask fragments, a vessel fragment, and the Sprint Master charm. Back to the fight. I killed one, only for another to spring to life. Brutal. 2 enemies, fast as hell, half the time they're off the screen, so I'm guessing where they are, and guessing wrong means that Brutus here rolls straight into my nuts. I swapped out Soul Catcher for a quick focus, and it made a world of difference. I also started getting more liberal with Soul Blast because why should I hoard it when I could end fights faster? Just a few attempts later and the Watcher Knights were down. I scaled the rest of the tower and took out my pent-up anger on the Comatose Watcher. There we go. We fucking did it, chat.
One mask remains. After that slog, I needed a breather, so I strolled over to Millabel the banker. I deposited my entire purse of 2,000 and change geo. My money was in good hands. Usually, I'd swing back after about an hour of play to check my balance and collect a little interest. While wandering the Kingdom's Edge, I crossed paths with Hornet once again. I'd hoped our first duel was enough, but she clearly disagreed. Her fighting style blended familiar patterns with a couple new tricks, the worst being these new spikes. With patience, well-timed strikes, and a healthy dose of stubbornness, I showed my proof of resolve. Afterwards, she asked if I truly understood the path ahead, and then told me to continue and burn a mark upon myself. This wasn't exactly reassurance, but it was enough. Deep beneath that last arena, in a shadowed corridor, I claimed the king's brand, marking me as the rightful ruler of Hollownest. Back in the ancient basin, I found a door that only opens for royalty. Beyond it lay the abyss, filled with shifting shadows shaped like my own. Eerie doesn't begin to cover it. Deeper yet, a statue offered a chalice of pure shadow. Oh, thank God I've been waiting for a bath. The shade cloak fused to me, enhancing my Mothwing cloak so I could dash through enemies, attacks, and those black gates that once blocked my path. On the way out, Hornet appeared, revealing that we were half-siblings, and that my choices would decide whether the world ends or endures. She urged me towards that harder path. I meandered back into Fog Canyon, dashed past that black gate, and found Cornifer not very long after. I bought that map so fast, I'm not even sure he finished telling me the price. On my way to the final mask, I learned something new. You can actually stop mid-Crystal Heart Blast. This revelation didn't last long, though. Umu rose from the acid, crackling with electricity. My attacks did nothing until Quirrell leapt in, disabling it long enough for me to strike. We fell into a rhythm. Quirrell disables, I attack, repeat. Eventually, Umu collapsed, and beyond him waited Monomon, the teacher, suspended in a giant vial. After a brief exchange, Quirrell presented the mask. And the teacher was no more. The final mask joined the others in the Black Egg Temple, and the end was now in sight. But I wasn't quite ready to end the game just yet. There was still blood to spill. I headed straight to the Colosseum to sate my homicidal urges, placed my mark, and stepped into the arena. One by one, I cut through every challenger, pausing only to heal before adding new corpses to the pile. Then came the final opponent.
Uh-oh. I'm scared. I have to pee real bad.
Zote the Mighty. I didn't really want to fight him. I'd saved this guy, 3 times now? Only to kill him? He stumbled over his own feet, swinging his nail like he was trying to swat a fly. I let him land a few hits to save face, but I couldn't ignore that his life ender was made of wood. It was time to put this rivalry to rest and to end the career of this so-called warrior. I made my mark and entered the Trial of the Conqueror. A real challenge this time. The relentless waves of enemies never let up, and the arena itself kept shifting beneath my feet, sprouting new platforms and spikes, just to mock me. It took a few attempts to finally master dodging the Japanese Air Force on that cursed narrow platform. After that, yeah, I needed a break. I cleaned out Iselda's shop, snagging the last few maps and earning the title of True Cartographer. From Legator, I picked up Fragile Heart and Fragile Strength, and then swung by Salubra for my final charm notch. On my rounds, I checked in with the Grubfather, who showered me in Geo as always. I finally entered the Black Egg Temple, a mysterious void broken only by towering white spires. At its end, a giant version of myself loomed in chains, staring me down. Naturally, I let him loose, basically lubing my own butthole before getting unconsensually touched.
Come over here and kiss me on my hot mouth. I'm feeling romantical.
This was the Hollow Knight. You may have thought that was me, but I'll forgive the confusion. I died almost instantly, made a bit of progress, and decided to bail for round 2 later. Among the wastes, I met a worthy adversary.
Bro is literally a firework. Katy Perry loves him.
From there, I scaled the crown of Hollownest and claimed a piece of pale ore. My victory didn't last long, though. The enraged guardian turned me into paste over and over again. At least I snagged a mass fragment after, giving me one more hit of survivability. Feeling confident, I went to the nailsmith only to be turned away. I needed 2 pieces of pale ore. Damn it. I made a quick detour to Nailmaster Oro. 800 Geo later, I was enlightened with his latest nail art. Then it was back to the Colosseum, where I got obliterated, over and over. I learned a bit each run, sure, but attacking while wall bouncing? incredibly hard for me for some reason. I must have some sort of mental block here. After clawing my way past where I'd been stuck, the trial's twin bosses arrived. More than once, I was down to a single mask, that ominous vignette closing in. Every heal attempt feeling like trying to defuse a bomb. But somehow, I prevailed, finally earning the title of Conqueror. My reward? The second piece of pale ore I'd been bleeding for. I sprinted to that nailsmith, slapped 2,000 geo onto his bench and the ore, and left with a sharper nail and an even sharper thirst for violence. I ran into some random mushroom guy, speaking pure gibberish. I pulled out my translator, the dream nail, and even translated, I still have no idea what the hell he's talking about. I found myself in the Queen's Gardens, where the platforms became unusable for a few seconds after landing on them. How annoying. I wandered into a room, and the door slammed shut behind me. Oh boy, new Mantis enemies. After cutting down 2 of them, the Traitor Lord himself dropped from the ceiling, looking every bit ready to betray. His moveset was similar to theirs until he hit me for 2 damage. I died. A lot. In the long trek back from the bench full of parkour, enemies, and those damn creaking platforms. All this combined made his job a lot easier.
I can't describe how I'm feeling right now. Oh! I think that scream about sums it up, really.
Eventually, though, I pulled off his execution. Beyond him, I found a narrow passage and squeezed through, only to stumble upon the White Lady herself. Her words were cryptic, laced with prophecy and patience. From what I gathered, she'd been waiting for a very long time, and she offered me a white fragment and spoke of Hornet, hinting that I might one day find an ally in her. She also mentioned that the current vessel was weakening, letting the plague seep through once more. See? I can keep up with the lore, sometimes. I discovered a new thing to piss me off. A parkour gauntlet lined with spikes and enemies perfectly placed to smack me mid-burst. Platforming's never been my strong suit. Trial and error and error and error until finally, victory. All that work just to be a grub friend. I do it again though, these guys are adorable. I fell into a stag station. For 200 geo, I opened it up, rang the bell, and the last stag was overjoyed. He'd finally found the stag nest and offered to take me there. I accepted without hesitation. His old home was littered with the corpses of his kin. Quite the welcoming party. I wanted to help restore his hope, but then I spotted a vessel fragment. Priorities. I wandered into the royal waterways and eventually squeezed through a narrow crevice that led to a home inside the city. Within, a giggling noble cheerfully told me how funny it was that everyone's minds were gone. I decided I preferred the smell of sewage to the stench of entitlement, so I went back underground. Among the neon green waters, I found and consumed Isma's tear, granting me the ability to wade through acid without taking damage. I made my way up to the Howling Cliffs, where a tip from Hollowed led me to a breakable wall. Behind it lay the corpse of a bug. I dream-nailed the poor thing like a narcoleptic necrophile, and the room behind me turned red. Yeah, it looks like I'm going to hell for that last line. I went back to Dirtmouth. Ignoring the circus, I stopped by Sly's shop. Empty, but his trapdoor was wide open. Naturally, I snooped. Downstairs, Sly was waiting. Then he dropped the bomb. He's the great nail sage. Of all people, Sly? I returned back to the circus. In the smaller tent, I met Divine, a strange creature who insisted I wear something fragile. So I slapped on Fragile Heart and came back. She ate it. My charm. Gone. And now she wants 12,000 geo to give it back? This is highway robbery. In the large tent, I met Troopmaster Grimm. He asked me to take a child and feed it flames. This isn't my usual parenting style, but what do I know? The Flame Guardians were pushovers. 3 down, and I returned. The kid had grown, and so Grimm sent me out for 3 more. Same deal, just as easy. On the way back to Grimm, I stopped by the seer with a healthy stack of essence. She opened a door for me, but far more importantly, she handed over a piece of pale ore. Inside this door was the Spirit's Glade, a gathering of ghosts practically begging to be put to rest for essence. I returned to the Troop Master finally, only for him to repay my help with a duel. Death, such sweet sorrow. I decided to delay this fight, and detoured all the way back to the Mantis village, stumbling into an unexplored chamber. There, I found the Mark of Pride charm. Basically Longnail, but better. Even better, it stacks with Longnail for plus 40% attack range. Now that's reach a YouTuber like me can use. With my confidence restored, I dove into the Trial of the Fool. Aptly named because I got demolished. Again. and again. Each failure mentally chipped away at me. I didn't rage quit, but I came close. More than once.
I just can't do it. I can't take this shit no more, man.
For the longest time, it bothered me that these innocent grubs had been stolen from their father and locked away. Deep in the Queen's Gardens, beyond an acid pool, I found the love key and sprinted to the City of Tears. Inside the Tower of Love, a symphony of giggles led me to a jar-filled nightmare. From above, the Collector pounced, dropping enemy jars mid-fight to keep me busy. I died once to the shadowy acrobat, but quickly ended his obsession. Above his lair, 3 rescued grubs, and a map marking every remaining prisoner. I scoured every corner of Hollow Nest for grubs, and even stumbled into a beehive. Inside, the Hive Knight stood guard. One try, one victory. Still, it was an honor to duel a fellow knight. Beyond him, the Hiveblood charm awaited, and the Hive Grub was secured. Next stop, Crystal Peak. I had 11,000 geo in my pockets when I died to these crushers. It would seem that my dash timing is garbage. I crept through the rest of the area, terrified of losing it all. Tried farming soul with the Dream Nail, but the fixed animation and lack of control drove me insane. Then I remembered Confessor Gigi, and finally learned that rancid eggs are her fee to summon your shade. At the second set of crushers, I thought the Crystal Heart Blast would carry me through. Nope. Eventually, Hollow told me the magic trick. Walk under the first when it rises, dash under the second as that rises, and then dash again. Perfect. Peak grub collected. I visited many places, freed many grubs, and I was happy to help with their metamorphosis. The last one was Deep in Deep Nest, and just past him I found a breakable wall. In the narrow tunnels beyond I saw myself, and there I am again. Okay, I'm losing my mind. Oh, it's a big open chamber, and here I am again. Hey, buddy, are you doing okay? That's a nice extra limb you've got. Oh wait, that's 8. It's a spider! This creepy creature was the spider boss I'd been dreading. He scurried so fast I barely had time to think, let alone heal. Every so often, he'd cling to the ceiling and drip whatever this orange nightmare juice is onto me. I figured he had 1 hit left, so I charged my nail and popped him. Beyond him waited a well-earned pale ore. While I was still in Deep Nest, I also snagged the Sharp Shadow charm for my trouble. I finally made it to Grubfather, who showered me in Geo. He also handed over another pale ore and the Grubberfly's elegy charm. With my pockets brimming, I returned to Divine, 12,000 Geo down the drain. But now I had the Unbreakable Heart charm. Of course, she had to poop it out. Lovely. I gave her my greed charm next. 9,000 Geo required. On chat's advice, I swung back to the Grubfather and found all the grubs inside of him. I'm not even gonna pretend to understand how, but apparently that's their next stage of life. At last, I went to the nailsmith with 3 pale ore in hand. A few strikes of his hammer later, and I held the strongest weapon in Hollow Nest, the Pure Nail. He regarded it quietly, eyes reflecting both pride and sorrow. He stepped outside and gazed over the still waters beyond his home, and spoke of his life's work. This was his pinnacle, the final creation his hands would ever craft. There was nothing left for him to give. His only wish was to feel the edge of his masterpiece before his story ends. I hesitated. The weight of his request pressed on me. But in the end, I thanked him for my nail's purity with a single, perfect strike. Damn. Chat convinced me to equip 1 more charm than I had slots for. The result? Overcharm. Once they explained that it meant taking double damage, I took that off immediately. That's not a trade I'm willing to make. Back to the Colosseum I went, only to die over and over. My emotional state faded from red-hot rage to dull gray apathy. I wasn't mad, just disconnected. So I swapped tactics and farmed Geo in the Trial of the Conqueror instead. 8 runs later, and I had the 15,000 Geo I needed for Unbreakable Strength. One of the best charms in the game. 50% more damage, and no breaking on death. With nothing left worth buying, Chat convinced me to visit Leg Eater. I had finished upgrading all his charms, so he moved to Dirtmouth, drawn by Divine Scent. When I returned to her, only his legs remained. Ironic. Back in the Colosseum, I clawed my way a little further, only to be trapped in an even smaller arena, spike floor below. Every attempt bled me dry. At this rate, the Trial of the Fool isn't getting completed. Am I a fool yet? I eventually learned that pogoing off the enemies was the way to go in the section that had been tormenting me. I finally made it to the other side, watching the spiders kill themselves.
I died soon after, but I was reinvigorated. I'd finally passed the part that had broken me. On my next attempt, I reached the spiders with more health, and the following waves fell easily. Then, the arena went quiet. Giant footsteps shook the ground. Oh, fuck me. I was face to face with God Tamer. With a name like that, I braced for a God tier brawl. He was dead in less than a minute. The crowd cheered, showering me in Geo. I wasn't sure that they were cheering for me or just relieved that it was finally over. I was a fool at last. I re-challenged the lost kin. Healing against him was tougher, with these orange blobs drifting in real slow. Despite the chaos, I'll take a one-on-one boss fight over a horde any day. At least when I die, it doesn't take 10 minutes to return. After a few attempts, I finally granted my lost kin true peace. His ghost lingered over his corpse, silently mourning. I reached out to console him, but instead, I absorbed him for 400 essence. My dream nail had reached full attunement. All the way back in the Forgotten Crossroads, I found a couple of maggots holding a eulogy for their fallen warrior. I killed them for a hunter journal entry. Then, I entered the dream of their warrior. The screen shake was disorienting, and the falling rocks made it even worse. The pattern here was simple though. He fires a wave attack across the arena, dodge it, wait for the leap, and smack him in the ass. When his mask cracked, I could farm him for soul with the dream nail and squeeze in a heal. After a few tantrums, he fell through the floor like before, and I braced for a phase 2. Against Hollowed's advice in chat, I decided to full heal before finishing him off. At least I was at full strength, just in case. Another 300 essence in the bank. In the blue lake above the City of Tears, I found Quirrell resting. He reminisced about our time together and said that of all the wonders in Hollow Nest, none intrigued him as much as me. This guy's coming on to me. I wasn't sure what I was a witness to. When I came back later, his nail was all that remained. That's suicide in a place like this. No. In the Soul Sanctum, I faced the Soul Tyrant. His moveset was mostly the same, until he crashed straight through the glass. I stayed up top, frantically healing before the second stage. My first attempt was chaos, particle effects everywhere, my timing shot to hell. On the second try, I ditched caution and just wailed on him, proving his mortality. As his spirit faded, he muttered that he'd found the cure for the plague. But the king ignored him. I absorbed his essence, and deeper in his tower, I used the elegant key. Inside, a lone soul warrior guarded a device that upgraded my blast into its elegant form. I wandered the fungal jungle and found a crying whelp. Well, better go rescue it. A short parkour course later, and I reached her. Bretta was her name. She thanked me and ran off to Dirtmouth. When I followed, I found Zote bragging to her, reading all 57 of his precepts. Hollow told me to read them all. Some were psychotic, others were just common sense. Bretta was swooning. I checked her house, finding a mass fragment, and a shrine to Zote, complete with a written fanfiction called 57 Shades of Zote. Bretta, you need help. I dream-nailed her bed and entered a romanticized nightmare. Grey Prince Zote rose from the floor. Bretta was surrounded by Zotes. It was so absurd I could not stop laughing. He even falls over in her dream. I actually died of secondhand embarrassment. Once I stopped laughing, I dodged his waves and punished his reckless swings, healing whenever he toppled. I ended this dark romance. With my dream nail brimming with essence, I returned to the seer. She rewarded me with trinkets, a soul shard, an arcane egg, a mask fragment, and taught me the dream gate, a shortcut through reality itself. But then, something greater. My dream nail burned with light as it reached its awakening. It no longer felt like a tool, it felt alive. Exploring resting grounds further, I found another breakable wall. Beyond it lay the Grey Mourner, hidden within a cottage. She asked me to deliver a fragile flower to a distant grave. No stag, no damage, or the flower dies. A sacred task, and I immediately impaled it on spikes just before the grave. I tried again. This time, an exploding husk ended the fragile bloom. Each failure felt like mocking her grief, but at last I placed the flower on the grave, and she wept. For her, it was closure. For me, it was solace. As she disappeared, she left me a mass fragment, and I left wondering how many flowers I trampled in the process. In the sewers, I found a floor I could crash through, revealing a chamber lined with statues of dung. Among them, I entered the dream of the Dung Defender. I was thrilled to fight him again. His joyful spirit made even battle feel like a festival. On my second try, I defeated this memory, but victory tasted bitter as the white silhouettes of him and his friends dissolved into nothing. His voice trembled. My friends, I will protect our dear kingdom. Have faith in me. We will all meet again, I promise. That wasn't his usual boast. It was desperation, a hero clinging to a past that's already gone. Finally, I returned to the Grim Troop, Grimchild in tow, ready to face the big man himself. Turns out there's zero chance to heal in this fight, so I had to fight like hell. His cape swarm, jump in and slash. Drill dash, pogo midair. Pufferfish attack, corner up, and pray. His uppercut teleport, dodge fast, and don't forget the raining flames. This was a fight of pure reaction. No room for error. After memorizing each counter, I finally dropped him. But instead of fury, he cheered, like I'd just nailed my audition. The crowd roared, the stage burned, and Grim declared my grand performance. He asked me to gather the last embers across Hollownest. Why not? What could possibly go wrong? I gathered the first 2 flames, and the last one burned in the Forgotten Village. Brum was there, waiting, his accordion silent, his tone somber. He reasoned with me. A song played forever is no song at all. He pleaded with me to banish the flame, to end this ritual. Sorry, bro. Looks like you're on accordion duty forever. I returned to find the troop master asleep. I could not wait to see what horrors this nightmare dreams of. This dance drained everything from me. Attempt after attempt, I dissected his choreography, searching for even a sliver of weakness. His deadliest combo? His dash into the uppercut, followed by a rain of fire that punished hesitation. I thought that the safest place was directly beneath him and paid the price for it. The only safe zones were just to his left and just to his right. Hollowed offered a crucial tip: always return to center stage after his attacks. Once you're pinned to the wall, it's over. Instead of chasing extra hits while he scattered into bats, I used those moments to heal. An attrition fight over recklessness. After endless trial, error, and even more error, I finally completed Nightmare King Grim's ritual.
Did it, chat. Hollowed your strat of just don't die 5-head worked. Dude, you are a master strategist.
While exploring Kingdom's Edge, I found a strange tablet half buried in the ground, etched with a riddle. Each line was a location, and I needed to go there to find someone. Spawn of self, their minds unite. Aside the source of acid blight. Aglow in darkest, winding depths. Winds all howl above fossil stone steps. Monarch flies in air set still. To root's domain and snail once shrill. Path of worm at new lands entered. There journey's end, the kingdom ventured. While chasing down this mysterious wanderer, I stumbled upon Galeon in Deep Nest. He wished to test his strength against me, but with a maxed out nail and unbreakable strength on my side, he never stood a chance. When I returned to the seer, she gazed into the essence, overflowing from my dream nail. She spoke softly of the light her people were born from, and how that light was now fading. Yet there was no fear in her voice, only acceptance. With calm dignity, she welcomed her ascension. After that dramatic farewell, my next fight felt almost trivial. Deep in the Forgotten Crossroads, I found the brooding Moloch. Once a terror for new players. Now just another swing of the nail. He barely had time to roar before I put him down. Still, his death granted me a mass shard. Even the weakest foes have their place in making me whole. As I explored, one line from the riddle kept echoing in my head. Path of worm at new lands entered. Hollowed in chat explained that worm was synonymous with king. Then it hit me. I'd been walking my own path this whole time. The king's path. Maybe I'm not just some random wanderer. Maybe I'm the Pale King himself, struck with amnesia, trapped in a comatose dream, fighting the infection inside and out. Every step, every memory, could be fragments of a forgotten reign bleeding back into the present. This isn't just exploration anymore, it's remembrance. But hey, that's just a theory. A game theory that the community hates.
At the final stop, Mr. Mushroom congratulated me on my smarts, speed, and determination, and said he'd enjoyed our travels together. Then he just started flying, straight up. This whole time, he's been in creative mode. None of this has ever made any sense. In Howling Cliffs, I hopped inside of a chest and found the boulder shell. From there, I blasted myself across the Lake of Un and dove beneath a hidden wall. The ground rumbled, and a creature, straight out of Loch Ness, rose from the depths. I readied my nail, bracing for a fight, but instead he just spat a charm at me. Thanks, bro. At the nearest bench, I equipped Joni's Blessing alongside Lifeblood Heart. Together, they gave me 14 blue masks, just shy of the 15 I needed for a special door. There, I stood before an altar lined with 15 blue orbs. One by one, they lit up. The door opened, and inside awaited a nightmare of spikes. I nearly died climbing through, but at the end I claimed the Lifeblood Core. Not quite enough for the achievement yet, but close. My journey then pivoted to Crystal Peak, where a brutal timing challenge with the Crystal Heart pushed me to my limit. Barely scraping through, I was rewarded with deep focus. Deep in the stone sanctuary of Green Path, I found the final mass shard. With it, my shell was complete, every piece of protection in place, fully masked at last. The silence that followed was wrong. A ghostly figure drifted through the gloom, her empty sockets fixed on nothing. She whispered that she could no longer see, begging me not to hurt her. But there was something in the air, something unholy. I struck her down without mercy. Deeper still, I uncovered the final fragment of soul. The moment it fused with the others, my being expanded. One unified vessel, brimming with essence. For a heartbeat, the world itself seemed to breathe with me. I had become part of the world soul. I honed my blade, steadied my breath, and turned to the greatest work of combat theory ever written. Only then was I ready for the fight ahead. It was finally time to end things. Every charm, every upgrade, every scar from the journey led here. I felt stronger than ever, bracing for what I assumed would be a year-long streak of humiliating defeats against the Hollow Knight. But almost immediately I pushed him into phase 2. He began thrashing, firing volleys across the arena. Instead of dodging, I went full violence. No hesitation. Stage 3 hit, and he drove his nail through his own chest before taking to the air. I didn't stop to think. I didn't stop at all. I just kept swinging. His shrieks grew weaker, his steps slower, until he limped towards me, swinging only out of instinct. To Hollow's shock, my reckless assault actually worked. The infection collapsed inward, its power pouring into me. I couldn't help but laugh. After all of those brutal attempts before, this time he fell in under a minute. The Knight of Hollowness was no more. I was now the Hollow Knight. The developers congratulated me, saying they'd see me again on the road ahead. Pfft, maybe after the passing of an age. Another cutscene rolled. Is that a bird? A plane? Nope, it's Mr. Mushroom. Way too close of a close-up there, bro. Then came the final tally. Completion. 102% in 43 hours. First, pride hit. Then, exhaustion. And finally, realization. The speedrun achievements are gonna kill me. Now, I genuinely think this is where most players would stop, right after the credits, and honestly, that's fair. But for me, I wasn't even close to done. There's a lot more video to go. I found the White Knight in Ancient Basin, and stepped into the White Palace. Like many palaces of kings and khans before, this one was filled with buzzsaws, everywhere. I already love parkour, so why not throw in some moving OSHA violations for good measure? This place wasn't about combat or discovery, it was pure punishment. Every jump, every dash, every mistimed pogo carved a little deeper into my sanity. Hollowed, if you're watching this, I expect a handwritten apology for recommending this game. After what felt like an eternity, I finally hit a switch and unlocked access to this, let's call it, Soul Lantern. This White Palace is the hardest boss in Hollow Knight without question. I spent hours bashing my head against it, chasing perfection through endless buzzsaws and spikes. Somewhere along the way, I even found another Soul Lantern, not that it made the pain stop. If you want to watch my sanity decay in real time, the highlights and the full VODs are on my second channel, Devo 2. Or if you want to make fun of me in person, join the next achievement hunt on Twitch. After many, and I mean many, deaths, I finally gave in and equipped Hiveblade. This charm changed everything. Every time I took damage, my last mask would heal back after about 15 seconds. The White Palace didn't become easy, but it stopped breaking me. Eventually, I reached a tower and rode an elevator into a vast throne room. At its center sat a monarch, slumped lifeless on his throne. I've seen this before. Big room, eerie silence, ominous figure waiting to be touched. This had to be a boss fight. I steadied my breath, raised my nail, and struck the corpse. Instead of waking up swinging, he simply toppled forward, dropping the second half of the King Soul charm. As I picked it up, the screen faded, and the words appeared. Soul of worm, soul of root, heart of void. I woke up in front of the White Knight again, and headed straight for Salubra. Turns out I was still missing a charm. Great, fine. To Deep Nest I went, reluctantly. Oh, that was easy. Weaver Song collected. With every charm finally in hand, I returned to Salubra. She praised my dedication, my generous spending habits, and my startling good looks. I reloaded the save a few times just so I could re-experience it again. With the King Soul equipped, I returned to the White Lady, my mother, or at least that's what it feels like. She spoke softly of the charm's mystery, asking what lay truly at its heart. If I was curious enough, she said I should seek the place where I was born, where I died, and where I began. My mind initially went to King's Past, but no. The truth lay deeper. Back in the abyss, the graveyard of my siblings. As I descended, the floor cracked open beneath me, revealing a hidden passage that led deeper into a colossal black egg pulsing with quiet power. My dream nail throbbed in my hand, reacting to something ancient inside. I raised it, hesitated for just a moment, and struck the shell. No cost too great. The words echoed as I clawed my way out from the mountain of my fallen siblings, corpses upon corpses, all who came before me, all who failed. I climbed through the abyss, every step pushing against the weight of their memory. No mind to think, no will to break, no voice to cry suffering, born of God and void. The recipe for a Hollow Knight, a vessel stripped of thought, of will, of self, forged not to live, but to contain a plague. Perfection through absence. The chosen brother glanced back at me, and then turned away. Abandoned, I fell back into the abyss. In the silence, the Pale King's voice echoed, not to me, but to the vessel he had chosen. You shall seal the blinding light that plagues their dreams. You are the vessel. You are the Hollow Knight. As his words faded, the King Soul dissolved, its brilliance devoured by shadow. What remained was the void heart. To the left, I found a strange pedestal and stumbled onto it, still seething from that betrayal. In that fury, I unleashed a soul shriek, my rage echoing through the cavern. My blast came back to me stronger, sharper, more destructive than before. Same cost, more power. I rushed back to the black egg where Hornet stood waiting, calm and resolute, ready to face whatever end I chose. Once again, I charged in with full aggression, but this time as the Hollow Knight shrieked, Hornet intervened. She drove her nail into his forehead and bound him, giving me the perfect opening to use my dream nail. Instead, I panicked. My instincts took over, and I slashed wildly, freeing him from her binds and knocking Hornet unconscious. I struck the Hollow Knight down once again, absorbing his soul much like before. The cutscene played out exactly the same, except now, Hornet lay still in the background, her mask sealing the black egg. She had become a dreamer. And with her locked inside the black egg, no one could ever reach her. This was the Sealed Siblings ending, a fate where the infection rages unchecked, dooming Hollownest. The same recklessness that once carried me to victory had now doomed Hornet and all of Hollownest. This cannot be where the story ends. One unskippable credits roll and a Hollow Knight rematch later, I struck him with the Dream Nail instead of my blade. The world dissolved, colors bleeding into the light, and suddenly I stood in a radiant expanse. A raised platform, suspended before a blazing sun. At the very top, one word appeared. Challenge.
Challenge what? What is this? What, am I gonna fight the fucking sun? Oh shit! I'm gonna fight the sun!
That's a huge bitch!
I was completely unprepared for this fight. Beams of light rained from the sky, blades carved across the arena, half the platform was a bed of spikes. The radiance blinked across the battlefield faster than I could react. Healing was a joke, every pixel of the screen wanted me dead, and every hit tore off 2 masks.
My only saving grace was discipline, saving my dash for the moments that truly mattered, and hammering her with a bishriek whenever a window opened. But after the Hollow Knight's fight, where reckless aggression won the day, shifting into pure survival mode felt brutal. Worse still, the radiant lines behind her mimicked attack telegraphs, tricking me into dodging its shadows. Eventually, the void reached out to bind the radiance, but she slipped free, ascending higher. The battlefield fractured into 6 scattered platforms, each one a cruel test of timing and nerve. Every desperate jump felt like defiance itself. As she climbed, so did I. Then, from the depths, my fallen siblings began to rise, silent shadows reaching from the void to lift me upward. One final blow connected, and the darkness surged. The Hollow Knight appeared beside me, not as an enemy, but as an ally. He wrenched her eye open, and together, we ended it.
Eat 'em! Eat 'em! Yes!
It's helping you. Yeah, but who is that? It's the Hollow Knight? Wait, what? That was the Hollow Knight also helping me? The black egg dissolved into nothing. Hornet stirred awake, only to find me fallen, my head split open in sacrifice. Around us, my siblings lifted their gaze skyward as their long dream finally ended. Vengeance, justice, closure, all of it claimed in our name. At last, my kin could dream no more. I didn't know what came next, but we weren't done with this save. Not until I hit 112%. Behind the Colosseum, I stumbled into a little gremlin clutching something like Gollum guarding his precious. Naturally, I had to have it. The little bastard skittered away, flinging spikes and taking swipes whenever I closed in. The chase wound through trap after trap until I finally cornered him. All for a simple key. Figures. This key led me deep into the sewers, where a crumbling wall hid a forgotten chamber, the junk pit. In its center stood a sealed sarcophagus. Curse of Ra be damned, I cracked it open. A body spilled out, clearly past its warranty, and from it I claimed a strange device called the God Tuner. Dream particles floated from the corpse, faint and deliberate. Since old habits die hard, I pressed my dream nail into it. In an instant, I was pulled into a place unlike anywhere else. Godhome. Before me stood towering gates, 2 already open, a 3rd flickering, but not quite ready. Deeper within lay the Hall of the Gods, its walls lined with echoes of every foe I'd ever faced. Each statue hummed with power, waiting to be challenged again, while the empty pedestals whispered hints of enemies I had yet to conquer. I challenged the first gate and was immediately humbled. A boss rush? Of course it was. One by one, I cut through familiar faces, honestly having a blast the whole time. Then Nailmaster Oro stepped forward as the final fight. When his brother Mato suddenly joined in, I couldn't help but giggle, right before they tag-teamed me into the dirt. I'd never seen this fight before, so of course I died. What I didn't know was that dying meant restarting the entire Pantheon from scratch. Damn. On my next run, I learned the trick, focus one brother down first to cut the chaos in half. With patience and precision, I brought them both to heel. When they bowed, it wasn't defeat, it was respect. True brotherhood. My first Pantheon victory clocked in at 8 minutes and 8 seconds. I tore through the early bosses once more and came face to face with Paint Master Shio. His brush danced across the arena, each strike a splash of color, each dodge a stroke of grace. For once I didn't have to die a dozen times to learn. I read his patterns, painted my counters, and turned his art against him. The duel itself was an inspiration, a masterpiece crafted in motion. Someday I hope he captures it on canvas. Alas, I couldn't advance. The next gate was locked, missing a symbol. That meant returning to the real world to hunt down the last 2 Dream Warriors. First was Markov, perched in the cliffs of Kingdom's Edge. I braced for a grueling fight, but to my surprise he fell quickly. Then came Elder Hu, buried deep in the fungal wastes. His rings closed in fast, but one by one I broke through, cutting down his defenses until silence fell. 2 more dreams ended, and the path to God awaited. The 3rd gate opened, and I carved through the bosses until he appeared. Not just Zote, not just the Great Prince. No! This was the invincible, fearless, sensual, mysterious, enchanting, vigorous, diligent, overwhelming, gorgeous, passionate, terrifying, beautiful, powerful, Grey Prince Zote. His ultimate form, a scene straight out of the best-selling romance, 57 Shades of Zote. He was radiant, he was majestic, he was absurdly hot, and in my moment of awe, I lost the entire Pantheon run. That's right, I was slain by Zote. Every woman's dream. Determined not to let him end my legacy, I trained against Zote's final form. Pogoing off his reckless swings became the key, and after countless humiliations, he finally fell. The rest of the Pantheon blurred past until I faced Nail Sage Sly. His nail was 3 times his size, and I begged for mercy. None was given. On my second attempt, though, I overcame him, too focused to realize that I could have just pogoed his helicopter attack the entire time. The 4th gate opened, and I charged in without hesitation. One by one, the early bosses fell until they appeared. The Watcher Knights, my old nemeses. It did not matter that my nail was sharper, my charms stronger, my map practically complete. The moment they started rolling around like medieval bowling league, I was flattened. Some things never change. They remain the bane of my existence. I kept trying and trying, clawing my way through the Pantheon's gauntlet of bosses. At last I reached the Godseeker, who took one look at me and sneered, calling me puny, yet somehow worthy of what came next. With only 4 masks left, I stepped forward and met him. The Pure Vessel. Think the Hollow Knight, but stripped of infection, hesitation, or mercy. Faster, sharper, relentless. It was like he'd studied my own full aggro strategy and turned it against me. He may have no voice to cry suffering, but he's got one hell of a singing voice. I was dead in seconds. After everything I'd endured, the boss brigade, the fatigue, the triumphs, to be crushed that fast left me stunned. At least the Hall of Gods now offered me a small mercy. The chance to challenge this nightmare again and again whenever I dared. I trained. I died. Over and over. This so-called god of nothingness turned me into nothing, again and again. Every strike tore off 2 masks. Brutal. Progress came slowly, but at last I staggered him once. I learned to pogo through his lunges and 3-swipe combos. Half of his arsenal was solved right there. But those 7 daggers, they always found me.
But a little bit? I feel like Rocky when he gets his ass beat in every fucking movie he's in.
Eventually I started seeing new attacks, bubble bursts countered with soul blasts, void tendrils dodged with a double jump, and punished with a nail strike. I trained and I trained some more, and with every attempt, a little bit more hope bled from me. Then, somehow, against all odds, I beat the Pure Vessel. I actually did it. At least I knew he could die now. But now the real challenge was realizing I had to do it all again after carving through every other boss in Pantheon 4. I reached the Pure Vessel again, with only 4 masks. I died in seconds. It's one thing to design a boss around brutal muscle memory, fine, I'll just grind it out. But locking him behind a gauntlet of already punishing fights, that's just sadism on a divine level. Every failure meant replaying the entire Pantheon, dying to something else along the way, just for a little extra salt in the wound. I beat Pure Vessel again in practice, but inside the Pantheon, same story. Died to the warm-up axe before I even made it to him.
Progress in this game comes in inches, not miles. I guess it's fair because it's a fucking game about bugs.
Pantheon 4 tested every ounce of my patience. 5 hours straight of it. I clawed my way back to the Pure Vessel, gave myself and chat a heartfelt pep talk.
I don't know how angry I'm gonna be if I lose this one. But this very well might be my last one. Because I don't know how much more of this shit I can fucking take. If I do make it, I'm probably still ending stream. Because I just want to relax for the rest of my night. If I don't make it, I'm going to try to calm myself down as much as possible, but there's no guarantees. It might just be over. So, let's go in there. Let's give it our best shot. And there's always next week.
Motherfucking daggers. Fuck, dude! That's the end of stream. Bye. In hindsight, grown man yelling at bug game is hilarious. Off stream, I went back to the lab grinding practice runs until I discovered the secret. Dodging into the daggers with the shade cloak was actually the optimal counter. After a week of relentless practice, I strode into the fourth Pantheon one last time. The run wasn't flawless, far from it, but the pure vessel finally fell beneath my nail. Among the void, a blinding light erupted, Radiance herself shrieking in defiance as darkness swallowed her whole. My soul and shade were united at last. For a moment, relief washed over me. Then came dread. One Pantheon remained. Just one. I struggled just getting up to it. Why is this jump so damn hard? Right out of the gate, 2 of the same boss. Okay, not bad. I figured Pantheon 5 might just be doubles of everything. Then Gru's mother waddled in and proved me wrong. Cue me repeatedly dashing face first into spikes because they were dipped in ice cream or something. Turns out this wasn't just about pairs, it was every boss back to back. Every weakness I've ever had, every mistake I've ever made, condensed into one relentless gauntlet. I tore through boss after boss until I stood before the Mantis Lords. A one-on-one duel, clean, perfect, elegant. I braced myself for the usual 2-on-1 follow-up, but no. All 3 sisters descended at once. The arena exploded into a blur of claw swipes, dashes, and pure panic. The rhythm was electric, every lunge a dance, every dodge a heartbeat. But the tempo outpaced me. Eventually I was overwhelmed. Still, I learned something crucial. Tag a lord each time they lunge, and the chaos starts to make sense. It was encouraging, almost surreal, to carve through bosses that once felt impossible to me, only to realize how effortless they had become. Every strike, every dodge, every decision felt sharper. My skill had clearly grown. I wasn't the same wanderer who first stumbled into Hollow Nest, wide-eyed and terrified. I'd become something more. I just needed to grow a little further. To balance all that newfound confidence, fate decided I needed humbling, so I died to Umu. I remembered him as a pushover, but without Quirrell swooping to disable his defenses, I just flailed around helplessly in a lightning storm. I miss him. I can't do this alone. Still, somehow I managed to keep my cool through this stream. Barely. Weeks went by, just trying to reach the final boss. Apathy set in. I streamed more often just to squeeze in extra practice runs, but it all felt pointless. Like spinning my wheels in mud. No progress, no growth, just repetition. Every week I asked myself the same questions. Why am I doing this? What do I even have to gain? Does anyone really care if I finish Hollow Knight? After much reflection, I realized something very simple. I care. I want to finish Hollow Knight. That next achievement, it's right there, and I can taste it. I studied Sly, he fell. Markov, he fell too. Then came Zote. Sure, I've beaten him before, but fighting him right after the dreadful Markov, that's a recipe for disaster. Minutes slipped into hours, hours into days, and I kept clawing my way back through everything I'd lost. Each boss mastered was a victory, but every victory only opened the door into the next nightmare. One day I booted up Hollow Knight again, but this time I swapped the orchestral soundtrack for a EDM playlist, and somehow I played better than I ever had before. She's in my sights. The end is near. I just need to get stronger. I found out you can desolate dive on spikes to clear the floor, and instantly became obsessed with it. I wasted so much soul I could have used to heal or, actually fight, just to tidy up the arena. My dash timing was garbage, constantly ramming face first into the wall of light. Still, I was thrilled just to reach phase 2. I fought like an idiot, blindly aggressive, taking risks I really didn't need to, but this fight humbled me. It taught me something I didn't want to admit. Sometimes slowing down is the only way forward. Finally, I made it past the second stage, climbing the staggered stairs while laser beams rained from above, each one more accurate the closer I got. My only hope was rhythm. Jump away from the target, double jump to wait for the beam to fire, and dash back in. Over and over, step by step. Third stage, 2 tiny platforms, barely enough room to breathe. She only teleports between them, so at least the chaos had limits. Her only real attack here was the swarm of radiant orbs, heat-seeking balls of light that hunted me down like mosquitoes. When I finally brought her down, absolute radiance shattered. I'd done it, but I hesitated to face her inside the Pantheon. Losing 40 minutes of progress to one mistake? No thanks. So I practiced, over and over. That's when I discovered something useful. Pogoing on her could actually send me clean off the screen, and when the orbs followed me up there, they'd just give up, dissipate. Cheesing the literal goddess of light? Yeah, that felt divine. I climbed through the Pantheon, cutting down every boss like I had 100 times before. A little rusty against the pure vessel, sure, but I still reached absolute radiance, with 2 health. Thankfully, I was healed before the fight. Then I choked. I don't even know how. Every hit I took was stupid, panic-fueled, meaningless. I was just so excited to finally finish the 5th Pantheon that I fumbled it at the finish line. Shit! Next run, I died to a radiant orb that spawned behind the wall of light. I didn't even see it. The damn wall hit it completely. That one hurt my ego. Attempt after attempt, my patience bled away. Each failure more maddening than the last. Bro, come on! This is retarded! You did the same shit! I'm so over it! It's funny, but it's so miserable at the same time. And then, insult to injury, on the way back to absolute radiance, I died to Zote. Again. I believe this rage quit to be justified. Couch baby. Unlocks a lot of RNG elements. Some other bosses have like falling objects. That's actually a really fair point. Yeah. Alright. My heart's beating. I can feel it pounding inside me. I bet the couch baby's jealous. It's a terrible joke. Ah, it's okay. It's one hit. We're fine. We're fine. I'm surprised we haven't had more sideways swords. I shouldn't have said anything. It was nice not having those swords. Alright, stage 1B, baby! How long have I had Full Soul for? Probably way too fucking long. Yeah, she went exactly where I want her to. Beat that ass. Ah. Oh, she went up already? Oh, fuck. That's so annoying. You can't fucking tell. Just don't dwell on it. Just focus. Don't dwell on it. Pogo, pogo, pogo. I have so much health. Yes! Yes! Oh, I gotta click. Finally! I can't even describe the relief. I was finally done with the pantheons. A cutscene played. Godhome was overwhelmed by the void, spilling into the waking world until even the Godseeker's body began to leak darkness. We cut to Hornet, watching as the infection faded, only to hear the heavy footsteps of a new Hollow Knight approaching. That's it? Oh, she embraced the void, giving it a nice little hug. And with that, I was rewarded with pure completion. All 112% of Hollow Knight was conquered. After that glorious victory, all I wanted was a little peace. The kind that comes from good old-fashioned hunting. I cracked open my journal and set out to find every creature I had yet to study in detail. From the caverns of Deep Nest to the cliffs above Dirtmouth, I wandered all through Hollow Nest, tracking down every last entry like the keen hunter I was destined to be. When the hunt was finally complete, I returned to the one who started it all, the hunter himself. He was happy to bestow my reward, or so I thought. The floor gave way beneath me, boss music blared, and the hunter dropped down after me. I swung a few times, but nothing. My hits did nothing. Then he held out his hand, and the music stopped. This toothy vagina faked me out. I snatched the hunter's mark before he could change his mind, and got the hell out of there. I'm just glad I didn't have to fight the true hunter. And with that, my first save was complete. Now it was time for Steel Soul mode. You know, the mode where if you die you have to restart from the very beginning. Nerves and knowledge, that's all I carried into danger. I scoured every corner of Hollow Nest, grabbing everything that might give me an edge. Even the parkour section that destroyed me last time I did flawlessly. That's growth, baby. It felt refreshing to rediscover this world, familiar yet sharper, like seeing it again with battle-hardened eyes. Now, I don't want to waste your time, dear viewer. This journey was mostly the same as my first. The bosses were a little more tense, sure, but after all the Pantheon training, they were no sweat. I'll admit, I did quit out before dying a few times, and I doubt I'd survive Steel Soul without that little bit of cheese. So, from here on out, I'll only cover what's new, the achievements, the surprises, the moments that actually matter. Consider this the abridged cut. I passed Zode, who was heroically struggling against the Vengefly King. He seems to have things under control here. I'll just move on.
A few moments later.
Oh, Zode, I'm sorry. I can't believe I've shown you such neglect. Hang on, buddy. I'm taking you to a hospital. During the run, I discovered a completely new animal in Hollow Knight that nobody else has ever talked about.
The fuck? Are there ducks in this game now? What? Where is this duck sound effect coming from? Is there a fucking... Am I losing my mind? Oh, Rose, what the fuck? What the fuck? Okay, you just completely mind-fucked me right there.
You're welcome.
After defeating Shrootmaster Grimm once more, I sought out Brum. He confessed that he no longer wished to play this song for eternity. And honestly, I couldn't blame him. This man's been stuck on accordion duty for far too long. So I struck the Grimm anchor, freeing him from the ritual at last. The grim troop faced banishment. Back in Dirtmouth, I found Brum standing beside Bretta and the Elderbug, still playing his accordion. At least this time it was by choice? Later, I returned to the nailsmith. With a few final strikes, he forged the pure nail, the strongest weapon in Hollow Nest. He gazed at it with pride and sorrow. This was his life's work, his final creation. He asked me to end his story with it, but I refused. I won't carry that weight. Not here. Not for an achievement. I left him alive and at peace. Looking for practice instead, I wandered to Nailmaster Shio's hut, only to find he wasn't alone. The Nailmaster stood behind him. A happy couple. Somewhere nearby, Alex Jones felt a disturbance in the water supply.
I don't like them putting chemicals in the water that turn the friggin' bugs gay. Do you understand that? Serious crap.
Now that I'm a supposedly god-tier Hollow Knight player, let's see how I fared against the deluge of bosses that have humiliated me throughout my time here, in my Steel Soul run. With the help of an interactive checklist map with objectives cleared one by one, I finished the final cleanup. The developers declared that I possessed a steel soul. I scoffed. I clearly had a steel heart. And just to rub it in, a speed completion. 100% steel soul in only 11 hours. 5 hours to beat Hollow Knight or restart from scratch. I've got this. I sprinted through Hollow Nest like my dad running from his responsibilities. False Knight for the city crest, Soul Catcher for my spell build, free money from rescuing Zout, Hornet for the dash, then straight down to Mantis Village for the claw. Upgraded my nail, grabbed Spell Twister, Soul Master went down on me next, gifting me Desolate Dive, still the best ability in the game. I rescued Sly, bought the lantern, stormed Crystal Peak, powered up Dive even further, and then hit the resting crowns for the Dream Nail and my mass markers. Into the sewers next, Dung Defender, Switch Flip, deeper still for Isthmus tier so Acid wouldn't delete me. Then to Ancient Basin to execute Lost Kin and steal Monarch Wings. Watcher Knights then. I only died 5 times, which is practically a personal best at this point. Fucking testicle brothers, I'm so sick of you guys. First massacred, Umu took ages but kept him centered so Pearl and my dive could shred him. Teacher down, second massacred, then I slid into Deep Nest, ended Hera, and claimed the third. Nothing but Hollow Knight left. Even with my spell build playing like I enrolled at Hogwarts, but I majored in physical violence instead. He fell. Speedrun 1, done. Speedrun 2, done. And there we have it, ladies and gentlemen. Hollow Knight has been achievement hunted. I don't think I'm saying anything groundbreaking when I say this. After getting the first ending, I consider the game a 9 out of 10. The world is haunting yet beautiful, the NPCs are memorable, the combat is intuitive but brutal, and the soundtrack alone carries entire regions. My one real gripe, without chat guiding me, I would have been completely lost. The openness is part of the magic, but it can absolutely stall momentum for players like me who thrive on structure. But that brings me to the real question I wanted to answer with this video. Is Hollow Knight worth achievement hunting? And honestly, the Pantheons almost broke me. Pantheon 5 in particular is just cruel. Markov's floorless arena is bad enough on its own, pairing that with his randomness is already a nightmare. Then the game throws Crackhead Zote at you immediately after? That's not difficulty, that's malice. And that's before we even talk about Absolute Radiance. But here's the thing, that wall,
That exact stretch of suffering forced me to grow more as a player than anything else this game could have ever thrown at me. The Pantheons didn't just test my skill, they forged it. Without them, speedrun achievements and Steel Soul would have been dead on arrival. Pantheon 5 doesn't just challenge you, it remakes you. There were times I ended stream angry. Days I questioned why I was putting myself through this. Days that I wondered if maybe Hollow Knight had truly beaten me. But every failure chipped away at the frustration and forged something stronger in its place. When I finally climbed out of that pit of despair, it wasn't triumph over the hardest boss I'd ever faced. It was triumph over myself, my doubts, and my fears. And the payoff? The final cutscene alone is worth the pain. But the feeling of finally beating Absolute Radiance, I don't know if I'm just stupid or absurdly patient, but it was absolutely worth it. So, after everything, every death, every reset, every hour of grinding, Hollow Knight joins my list as a 10 out of 10 achievement hunt. Now that I'm finally done, you might be wondering what's next. During this hunt, I held a vote, and the people have spoken. I'm now bound to achievement hunt Gunfire Reborn. If you want to influence what I conquer next, tune in and be a part of the next vote. I put an absurd amount of work into this video, so if you have critiques or helpful guidance, let me know in the comments. And if you enjoyed it, a like, share, or subscription genuinely helps more than you know. My name is The Devotee, and this was Hollow Knight. Until next time.